Colorado's vaccine and hospitalization numbers look better and better. So why are we among the states with the highest case rates still? A trip down to Pueblo, where Colorado's newest millionaire will be made, for a look inside the process of our vaccination sweepstakes. We can help bring hope for teenagers struggling with depression and anxiety. Experts say they've never seen it like this here. We have not seen young wolves in our state in 80 years. They're here now. And so is this thing.
These are brand new additions that we drove to Columbus, Ohio to pick up.
You guys spotted it on the roads of Colorado, and we followed it to its new home. Next. Colorado's latest vaccination sweepstakes winner is number 860,180. That's the random number picked by the Colorado Lottery today. Now, the behind-the-scenes process begins before that winner goes public on Friday. Our Marshall Zellinger shows us how it works and how many of us were actually in that drawing.
So how many we got? 1 through what? 2,983,809.
Those are your odds of winning $1 million for being vaccinated. The drawing this afternoon looked a little like Keno or Bingo, except the only number that really matters is the first one. Congrats to number 860,180. Apologies to 1,116,094 for being first runner-up to $1 million.
Getting into the room, very difficult. Getting into the machine that runs the drawing, also very difficult.
We observed the computerized random number drawing from the viewing area of the Colorado Lottery main office in Pueblo. One winning number, Tier 1, and 25 backups, Tier 2, in case someone can't be contacted or refuses the money.
The machine and the room are under 24-hour video and audio surveillance.
Lottery Director Tom Seaver is not kidding about the security. That begins with a door that is zip-tied locked and then badge operated.
First of all, it takes 2 people to enter the drawing room. There are 2 separate keys. Once in the drawing room, the drawing machines themselves are kept under lock and are sealed. These automatic drawing machines are what's called air-gapped. That means they have no contact with the internet or with any other outside technology.
The drawing is conducted by a lottery employee and an auditor. It starts with a coin flip to determine the left machine or the right machine. Then a roll of the die to determine how many test runs before the actual drawing, from the same machines that run Colorado's lottery games.
Most players aren't interested in watching the ping pong ball anymore. It kind of has lost its entertainment value, I think.
The lottery takes these numbers and sends them to the state health department, which has a list of 2.9 million Coloradans who are in the CIIS as being vaccinated. Those names, as we've told you, have been converted to numbers. The state health department will match 860,180 to a name and surprise someone, just like last week's winner, Sally Sliger. Thanks to Jeff from the Colorado Lottery for taking my GoPro inside. That's why you saw some of those GoPro shots on the other side of the glass. Apologies to Jeff, because since he was on the other side of the glass, he is not eligible for this drawing if his name were picked with that number. Now, Kyle, I don't mean to cause problems, but I feel like I'm about to. When I did the math of the people who have 1 dose on the state's COVID-19 website, and I subtracted the last number I got of 12 to 17-year-olds who had 1 dose, I got 20,000 more people in the drawing than should have been. That's why I'm in the middle of nowhere, just in case I cause some problems.
Oh my. Just when we think you're making everybody feel better, then you pull something like that. But Marshall Zellinger, even from an undisclosed location, always outstanding in his field. Thank you, Marshall. More than 3.1 million Coloradans have received at least 1 dose of the vaccine. 2.7 million people are through with the process. You got 46% of the population. Currently, there are more than 400,000 people waiting on a second dose. Our hospitalizations, love to see it, are at their lowest point since April. 371 patients. We're down from 429 patients from this time last week. You look at Denver's vaccine and hospital numbers, and they're even more impressive. At least 70% of eligible people in Denver have at least 1 dose. And hospitalization rates in Denver have also dropped significantly, with fewer than 200 people currently hospitalized with COVID. This isn't rocket surgery. Vaccines, keeping people out of the hospital. The state health department whipped this up to show the connection between hospitalization rates and vaccination rates by county. Simplest way to look at this, you want to be on the bottom right of this graph. Bottom right is high vax rate, low hospitalization rate. Denver's there, Jeffco's there, Summit County is there. The highway to the danger zone is top left. Low vax rate, high hospitalization rate. That is where Mesa County's under 35% vax rate has led to the highest hospitalization rate in the state. So, statewide, looking pretty good, right? We rarely look at the case rate, and there's a reason, because cases are usually mild, especially in young people now that so many folks are vaccinated. No doubt, though, Colorado still consistently ranks high among other states in COVID cases per capita, which is weird because we're not down near the bottom for vaccinations. Our Steve Steger took that conundrum to a doctor who runs one of the metro area's busiest ICUs.
We are really doing quite well compared to national rates for vaccinations. But when it comes to our test positivity rate, which is almost amongst the highest in the nation, we are really way behind.
The New York Times does a great job keeping track of that. Take yesterday, for example. Colorado's 7-day average of 591 cases a day ranks it second highest among the 50 states, only lower than Wyoming. Yet when you compare vaccination rates here to the other states high on that case list, Colorado blows them all away.
We are a younger population here in the Mountain West. And as a consequence, we know that amongst the younger population, the vaccination rates are still really suboptimal.
Dr. Ivor Douglas runs the ICU at Denver Health.
And that's apparent in my intensive care unit. I've been admitting people over the last 3 months that are fully 12 years on average younger than during the mid-year, late-year surge of 2020.
He says two factors come into play here: the youth of our region and the variants, infecting those young, unvaccinated folks easier.
The real concern that those of us have on the sharp end of this is that it doesn't take very many younger, unvaccinated people and those skeptical of vaccination to contract the Delta variant, for that to become the next forest fire into the fall and early winter.
The good news in all of this is that it's manageable, not flooding ICUs in the Denver region.
Test positivity rates are not translating into massive rises in hospitalization or deaths.
So Dr. Douglas says we've started to transition from the public health concern phase of the pandemic to the personal health phase of the pandemic. Spikes likely aren't going to lead to a massive constraint on our hospital capacity, but seeing people hospitalized and losing people to COVID still is devastating for Dr. Douglas, he says, because really nowadays it is so preventable if you just get the vaccine.
Steve, you hear folks clear up to the CDC talking about this shifting into a personal responsibility phase. Read the most interesting article today in The Atlantic by Ed Young, who is talking about how that really kind of glosses over the vaccine access issues that some people have. He pointed to a Kaiser Family Foundation survey where you had a third of unvaccinated Hispanics in this country saying that they really wanted the vaccine soon. It's not that they don't want it, but more than half of them were worried that they couldn't get the next day off if they had side effects, and almost half of them were worried about it impacting the immigration status of somebody in their family. So there's disagreement over this issue of where that burden now goes, you know?
Yeah, and Dr. Douglas did say this is maybe not the time that government leaders are the leading voices here. This is more the time that community voices, community leaders are the ones who are going to be in charge of trying to get that vaccine out to people. If you hear about it from your faith leader inside your church, you may be more likely to do it than if you hear about the government talking about it.
All right. Appreciate that, Steve. If anybody wants to read that Atlantic article, I wasn't planning on mentioning it today, but it's on my Twitter feed, and we'll retweet it from the next account right now. Thank you, Steve. Man, Westminster police have got some explaining to do. So over the weekend, they proudly announced the arrest of a suspected thief. They said stole cash from a yard sale and then injured an older woman during his getaway. Turns out what really happened was that he was falsely accused of stealing, and when he tried to get away from his accuser, she tried to stop his vehicle and was injured. District Attorney straightened out the story today, announcing that Armando Valdez-Gonzalez, who deserves to have his name publicly cleared, committed no crime. Here's the kicker. The DA says he contacted police to tell them what happened. and he still got arrested and publicly accused. Children's Hospital Colorado says that we are in a pediatric mental health state of emergency in Colorado. They're seeing twice as many young people with anxiety and depression than before the pandemic. It's why your Word of Thanks microgiving campaign this week is supporting a nonprofit that organizes Colorado's teenagers to talk to each other to destigmatize anxiety and depression with the goal of saving lives. Robbie's Hope is named for Robbie Eckert, 15-year-old in Lakewood who took his own life in 2018. His parents founded Robbie's Hope. Hope stands for Hold On, Pain Ends. They enlist teen ambassadors to talk with their peers so that feeling depressed and anxious isn't seen as isolating or unusual. And the nonprofit has again leaned on the expertise of teenagers themselves to create a guide for adults on how to talk to teenagers about depression and suicide. They have put the guide online. It's right there. But what they have found is a lot more effective is when a young person hands this guidebook to an adult in their life, teacher, coach, somebody else. It's that highly personal plea from teenagers to adults to read this, to use this, to help save the lives of friends and classmates who might be secretly struggling. Their basic message is to convince teenagers that it's okay to not be okay. What these teen ambassadors are doing is brave. What Robbie's parents are doing is brave. So let's help them out. If you text the word thanks to 303-871-1491, I will send you that link to donate. As always, I'll match the first 50 donations of $5 that come in. The experts are trying to get our attention that Colorado's teenagers are in an unprecedented state of mental health crisis. So let's do what we can to help their classmates and the adults in their lives convince them to hold on.
Not getting your way is frustrating. Republican legislators are dealing with that by turning on each other and swapping profanities. A pup date on Colorado's historic new couple whose procreation has been subject to our observation. And it looks like the transportation of a dangerous animal.
We built a huge crate and we put them in the crate and had painted on the sides, warning Sasquatch.
It's a small town's latest strange attraction. Next.
Colorado's legislative session ended yesterday, and the Republican infighting has already led to a failed attempt to oust their House leader and now threats of a primary challenge against him. The far-right gun rights group, Rocky Mountain Gun Owners, wants to take out Minority Leader Hugh McKean. They've got a history of going after Republicans they deem to be too moderate, and if that means Rocky Mountain Gun Owners helps Democrats get elected in their place, then so be it, it would seem. The most conservative members of the House Republican caucus tried and failed in a vote to replace McKean last night. They said he should have done more to slow down the Democrats' agenda. Rocky Mountain Gun Owners is now threatening McKean with the primary. And when McKean's office responded that the group could once again just be helping Democrats, RMGO's executive director responded on social media saying, F off. There are newscasts where celebrities' procreative activities are considered newsworthy. Not here. But the sexy business of gray wolves is very much something we cover because we are seeing something in Colorado that has not been around since the 1940s. There are finally pups. Wolf pups. Wildlife officers have been watching the den in Jackson County and today confirmed that the wolf pair there has little ones. 3 pups have been seen so far. CPW is thinking that there might be more because a wolf litter is usually 4 to 6 pups. These are the first confirmed wolf pups born in Colorado in 80 years. So I say that calls for a special birth announcement or something that they could mail out to the other animals that those wolf pups are going to grow up and eat someday.
A warm afternoon here in Denver, but our 90-degree streak came to a brief end. We touched 89 out at DIA, a little warmer in northern Colorado with some 80s out east and then 90s further across the western slope. Hot and dry. That's going to be the name of the game over the next about 24 hours. So much so that we have a red flag warning going across the western slope tomorrow, noon until midnight. Strong winds, extremely hot temperatures out there, and some dry conditions too. Here in Denver, while it will be breezy, the heat is what we're talking about. Close to record-setting highs. The current record tomorrow, 99. My forecast at 97 with some upper 90s and triple digits going in southeastern Colorado. A cold front rolls in late tomorrow afternoon and evening, drops us into the 80s Friday, but the 90s are back in time for the weekend.
Go hike on any trail in Colorado and you're likely to have an encounter with Sasquatch.
I don't think that's true. But it is absolutely true there's now a Sasquatch in Bailey. Some of you saw it coming clear across Colorado. That's next.
Y'all are like our statewide weirdness detector, because every day we get emails like, oh, I saw this weird thing, or there's something that seems odd about that, you should check that out. It was you guys that spotted the shipment coming into Colorado from the Midwest last week, and the trail led to Bailey.
Go hike on any trail in Colorado and you're likely to have an encounter with Sasquatch. We are in the Sasquatch Encounter Discovery Museum in Bailey, Colorado. We want to educate people about the existence of Sasquatch and what they could be like. My name is Jim Myers. I'm the creator and the owner, yes. I have seen one in the daytime and I've had so many encounters. They are some type of human hybrid. They are people. They have a language. They have a culture. They live in family groups. We put a map up here of Colorado because people kept coming in and telling us about their sightings, or they heard something, or they found footprints. So these are brand new additions that we drove to Columbus, Ohio to pick up.
Pretty good, actually.
So 1,500 miles back with this big crate on a trailer behind us created lots of attention. People would see the crate. I don't know what they were expecting, but they would climb up, they would see him in there, and they would have a visceral reaction. Some people actually stepped back off the trailer because they were so shocked by that. It's great fun. I can't imagine a job that would give me more fun, meet more people. Yeah, it's awesome.
Career field I never considered. Sasquatch journey through the lens of our photojournalist, Mike Grady. The most Colorado thing we saw today is a Jeep thing. Not a Jeep owner, so perhaps I don't understand, but it appears that they're making a scaled-down model these days. Penny sent us this picture she took at a community gathering in southeast Aurora last month. Just a bunch of Jeep drivers, one too young to have a license. What's the most Colorado thing you saw today? Email next at 9news.com. So we know that a lot of Colorado's young people are struggling these days. We also know that there's hope, and there are people fighting real hard to bring that hope to more kids. Great news is together we can help them out. That's next. Your Word of Thanks microgiving campaign this week is helping teenagers and some caring adults in their lives work to solve Colorado's youth mental health crisis. Robbie's Hope is a nonprofit that organizes teenagers to talk to their friends and classmates to destigmatize depression and anxiety. And those teenagers have also made a guide to help adults like teachers and coaches talk to teenagers about suicide. Robbie's Hope finds it's most effective when young people across Colorado hand that guide to the adults in their lives with a request to help them save lives. Text THANKS to 303-871-1491 and I'll send you that link to join me in donating to Robbie's Hope to support their life-saving work. Gary writes in about the state's vaccine sweepstakes. He says, my fear, as random as it all should be, is that all of the winners of the $1 million will be from the Front Range. Someone from southwest Colorado, he says, doesn't have a prayer of winning. Well, of course, Gary, everybody has the exact same prayer of winning, but you're right. It's more likely that the winners are going to be where the population is concentrated on the Front Range. A lot of this is about math and whether people get math, from COVID to vaccinations to the sweepstakes to that. But I take your point. News writes in to say, did Kyle just say it's not rocket surgery? Correct. Rocket surgery, of course, being twice as difficult as brain surgery and rocket science, but as I indicated, it's not rocket surgery. And Kay writes in to say, give Plaid a rest. Technically, this is a window pane.